was thinking. To pick up the tip of the meter lines, feel inside the drawers. If we own the night, then spread it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, episode 3. They said it couldn't be done, but here we sit, 3 episodes into Hawk Television. Thank you for tuning into Hawk TV on KFAN.com, and thank you for all the comments. By the way, a couple of things, housekeeping. If you have a like an organization, I don't care what it is, whether it's a charity or you're looking to make money or something like that, and you got a hat you want me to wear, send it to me, care of KFAN, and I'll wear it on Hawk TV because I like hats. So that's number 1. I'm looking for free stuff, and I'll wear it in return. Number 2, I'm going to have Hawk TV Facebook page, and if you have ideas for guests or comments about the show or comments about Meat Sauce, my own personal Ed McMahon, feel free to check out and become a friend of Hawk TV on Facebook. So those 2 things. The third order of business is thank you and welcome to our guest, Pete Bercich. Hi, Pete.
What's up, Hawk?
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, this is I didn't know about Hawk TV. I'm on the bandwagon now, though.
Well, I appreciate you.
guess.
Like I said, this is only the 3rd episode, but we are wildly successful on KFAN.com.
Just remember us when you are on your own show on
Right.
ABC,
Well,
10:30 to 11.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If there is a network looking to add programming, please contact AJ Mansour, who does the spectacular editing and work here, and basically does everything but ask the questions here on the show. We'd gladly come on your show, but we want to be able to keep our hats on, our beards, and wear black T-shirts and jeans. We've got a lot to talk to you about.
Sure.
Because I have a lot of questions for you. And a lot of it's going to be football, but a lot of it's not going to be football.
Okay.
Of course, Pete is currently the color commentator for the Vikings radio network, coached for the Vikings, played for the Vikings, played college ball at Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We'll talk a lot about that. But let's go all the way back and learn a little bit about the great Pete Bercich. First of all, where are you from?
I was born and raised in Joliet, Illinois, just outside of Chicago.
Right.
So it grew up there, and we all know the late 70s and early 80s. When I was a kid, things were not economically too great.
Right.
Joliet's come a long way. I mean, really the river boats that they brought in, the gambling really turned that town around. But now you have the NASCAR track and minor league baseball clubs, and so spent a lot of time in Chicago.
Yeah.
Folks take me up there. My parents are both from there, and so it's my favorite. It's still one of my, if not the favorite town I have. Every time I go back to Chicago, I feel like I'm home, and I'm not too far away. When I was a kid, we used to come up here to fish all the time. Ely, Minnesota, Leech Lake,
Right.
all over. So when I was drafted by the Vikings, and when I found out I was coming up here, it was pretty cool for me because I was still familiar with Minnesota. Been to Minnesota, spent a lot of time up here, and was very happy about it.
Right. So you grew up in Joliet. You said, what year were you born?
1971.
Okay. Mom and dad still with us? Everything?
My mom passed away a couple years ago. My
Sorry.
dad's still living in Joliet.
Gotcha.
So.
And brothers, sisters?
I have an older sister. She lives just south of the cities, not too far from where the Bears have their training camp. So, yeah, she's still in the area.
What was Pete Bercich like as a kid, as a young kid?
It's hard to say. I've thought about this, and I look at my own kids because I have three of my own, and they're probably much more pleasant to be around than I was as a kid. For whatever reason, ever since I can remember, I knew 2 things. One, I wanted to get out of the town I grew up in.
Yeah.
And I always had a chip on my shoulder, and a lot of it had to do. I really don't know why, but I was always just angry at a lot of different things and people, and it'd come and go.
Really?
Yeah, and it.
Do you get that from your parents? Do you think? Do you
I have
see
no-
this,
I
a
have
similar
no idea.
thing in your parents at all, or do you?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it wasn't an anger at my parents. It was just one of those. Just had a chip on my shoulder all the time. Maybe it was part of being competitive.
Right.
But I look at when I played baseball and things. Or football. I mean, when I was a kid, I took things personally.
Really?
I truly did not like people that I played against. But I still had a lot of fun. There was no real reason for it.
Right.
It was just something that as a kid growing up, I just wasn't content or happy with where I was.
Huh.
And just I don't know. It's a hard to put a finger on.
Yeah.
But I got in a lot of trouble, fair share of trouble.
Did you? What kind?
Well, all kinds of just.
Serious trouble or little kid trouble?
I got brought in by the cops a couple
Did
times.
you? Okay.
At least one time in particular.
Right. Can we talk about that one particular time?
Well, let's put it this way. It was a beer incident with some friends of mine when I was in 8th grade.
8th grade?
Yeah, I got drugged in by the cops, and my dad was a parole officer, so that didn't fly too well at the house. And I think one of the best things that happened to me was I went to a Catholic high school, Providence Catholic High School. It's in New Lenox, Illinois, and I wanted to play sports, and the guidance. I mean, not only did I become really Catholic when I was there, the coaches and the people that were there let me know from the beginning that if I really wanted to play sports, then I had to do A, B, C, and D. You had to do your work, do well in school, and stay out of trouble. And back when we would grow up, it wasn't detention that you feared. It was the coaches taking you up to the wrestling room and pounding you in the ground for about a half hour.
Yeah.
As barbaric as that may sound, or however you want to look at that, to me at the time, it's exactly what I needed. And then I had two very good friends in junior high. One of them went to a public school. The other one went with me over to the private school, and the friend that I had that went to public school, he's no longer with us. He died. Actually died in prison, for lack of a better story.
Wow.
Than that.
What did he do?
He was arrested for selling cocaine, and he was in jail down in Phoenix, and he was being transported, I think, from one prison to another. And while the bus had broken down, and while the bus was pulled over, a car just came by and plowed into him. And I'm not saying he was where he was because he went to public school.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
That's not what I'm
yeah, but that was a definite fork in the road.
But it's amazing how a decision that you make as a 13, 14-year-old could really change you.
Yeah.
And with everything else that came after it, I always go back to my high school and think that the people that I ran into there, the coaches that I had, the priests and everybody, the Catholic side of things, it helped me. It's what I needed at that time.
Right.
And so I owe most of what I am, I think, today, due to obviously working hard, but number two, just having that influence as a young guy.
When you go back to when you were a young guy, before any of that, was football always your sport? Did you play, in the grass with your friends? Were you always football? What else?
No,
did you do?
not really. Baseball was what I loved to do.
Really?
I'm going through this now with my kids and parents, and you see the hockey parents and the football parents, and how sports today, it's so organized. It's such a young age and so much time. I spend so much of my time in these ice cold, freezing hockey rinks and, and basketball arenas and everything else. And there's such a push for my kid to be on the A team and to play at this elite level and this elite club and do this all year round. And I go back and I think about it, and I know that baseball was what I loved to do. I mean, that was it. And then I realized in high school that mentally it really didn't suit me. Baseball's dealing with failure. I mean, it's like golf. No matter how hard you stand at the plate and try to hit a baseball, you're not going to do it all the time. Right. So in baseball, effort means a lot, but it doesn't mean as much as it does, let's say, in football. And how I dealt with failure was to get pissed off, and in baseball, it's hard to do. When you throw your helmet or throw your bat, I mean, you just got to kind of let it go and move on. And I wasn't very good at that. So that's where football was great. Where, in football, if you are working and doing 100% all the time, you're going to play well. Yeah. I mean, regardless of your physical ability. And so it wasn't until I was probably a junior in high school that I started to get attention from colleges and things that I realized that was pretty good.
That's what I was going to ask you. When it came to football, though, you were playing baseball and football all through school, correct. I'm guessing.
Right.
At what point did you become separate from everybody else as far as, obviously, you were drafted to play in the NFL and played in the NFL. You went to Notre Dame. At some point, you became better than everybody you were playing against.
I know I as a freshman, I practiced one day with the freshman team, and I played with the sophomores when I was a freshman. Mm-hmm. And I could hold my own with that group. my sophomore year, I played up on varsity, and it wasn't until probably the end of that year that I finally realized that, man, I'm able to play with kids that are 2 years older than me
Right.
and compete. I wasn't the best guy on the team, but I was still a good, solid part of the team. And that year we won state. It was the first time that my high school had gotten past first round of the playoffs, and they've won it a number of times since then. So I was really part of that turning point for the school.
Sure.
And again, I'm not taking all the credit for that, but I was part of that group. And like I said, I think it was into my junior year when letters started to show up from universities and big schools like Penn State and places like that, Michigan, that I kind of realized that there's something else there. Now, my father played in the NFL. He was on the original Dallas Cowboy team. He and my mom both went to Michigan State. And I think it's just like anything else. If your dad's an accountant, you don't think much of it.
Yeah.
If your dad owns a business, you're like, oh, well, my dad does it. Well, my dad having done that before me, I think really put all that in perspective, so to speak. I mean, my dad never talked about football.
Really?
Not the old days. He had maybe one picture in the house of him. And
Did he have much of a career with them?
Yeah, he played 2 years into his third season. He hurt his knee and then had to retire.
Any of the Super Bowl?
No, they were
Yeah.
terrible back
Right.
then.
Oh, okay,
So-
gotcha. Yeah, right.
So back in '86, I got to go down at the 25th reunion for him, and I got to see kind of his teammates and everything else. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
But just having him there, he wasn't on me all the time. He just, time he'd get on me as if my effort wasn't what it needed to be, and
right.
And I think that took an edge off it, took a lot of pressure off of it. And back then, there was a lot of attention paid to high school athletes, but not like it is now.
Right.
And you didn't have to. I don't know. You were just when I was off the field, I was just a normal kid. My life growing up was great like that.
We'll expand upon this in the next segment when we start talking more about your college. But for me, because I didn't play college football, obviously I didn't play in the pros. High school football, I can honestly look at you and say, non-family related, was some of the best times of my life. I loved my teammates. I loved my coaches. My coach was like another father. Was high school football that important to you as well?
Absolutely. And I think that's where you can't underestimate the influence that you have as a coach. And coaching the NFL is a little different. I coach my son's teams and the younger kids now, and it's amazing how even when you see them 2-3 months later at a basketball tournament, they all come up and talk to you. You're a father figure, but you're not their father, so to speak. And you're right, you do have a lot of fun. I mean, I figure I played 4 years of high school, 4 years in Notre Dame, 7 years with the Vikings, coached for them for 4 years, and I was only a champion once, and that was when I was a sophomore in 1987.
Wow.
We won a state championship. And you look back, and you've been so close so many times, right? But only once did it happen for me, and so I remember those things. You're right. That high school football is about kicking ass with your buddies.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what high school football is. When you get to college, it changes quite a bit, and the NFL obviously changes even more so. But those are the days that you remember. Your high school teammates are going to be your friends the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you play in college, you may keep one or two of them. If you play in the NFL, you may have one or two of them. But you're not going to have friends like you did in high school and with the sports, and it's all about the mutual misery that you went through, and there might be a player or two here or there you think about, but we went back and played the Bears and this year, and I had a couple friends who were tailgating. They're all still firemen in Chicago, and I had some time, so I went out by their tailgate, and as soon as we saw each other, we just started talking about high school again.
Yeah.
It's the glory days bit, and it stays with you. And
I always wonder
it's a
because
blast.
after you leave high school, even though you're in college and you're an amateur, it becomes work then, especially
Absolutely.
if you're at Notre Dame. So fun-wise, was high school the most fun you ever had playing football?
Yeah, it was up there. I mean, we had, at Notre Dame, there were times, I wouldn't say on the field that were fun, but I think there were some times in the NFL that would rival that.
Had to be a disappointment that you didn't win another championship, because you had to think when you signed to go to Notre Dame, you were going to. You know what? Don't
Right.
answer that question. Let's talk about that when we come back. That's segment one. That's Pete Bercich, former Viking coach, former Golden Domer, and, of course, former state champion in Illinois high school football his sophomore year.
A lot of formers, Hawk.
Yeah, a lot of formers. That's all right. There's a present as well. That's Pete Bercich. My name is Chris Hawkey. It's episode 3 of Hawk TV. We'll break. We'll come right back.